8:42, very nearly. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Right, should we go through some of the headline makers? Deputy Editor of Spite, Fraser Myers, joins us, and also, of course, Stephanie Tetchy, the one and only.
Oh, there's only one Stephanie. Fraser, let's kick off with this viral video, should we? And it's all to do with why Just Stop Oil kicking off about the Bibby Stockholm?
I think that is the great mystery. I mean, we've seen Just Stop Oil protest some very random things in recent months. You know, you've seen them disrupt the snooker, seen them disrupt the performance of Les Miserables, and now they're disrupting the transportation of migrants to the Bibby Stockholm ship. And interestingly, for this one, their barge references the ship. It says no more prison barges. Now, I mean, I understand why people would be upset about the condition in which asylum seekers are housed. That's perfectly reasonable. But it does seem a bit of an odd campaign for Just Stop Oil to get involved in. And you'd think also, logically, you know, oil is pretty necessary. Just stopping oil is not a good idea. And it's very necessary for people who are migrants, who are migrating from other parts of the world. You know, if we're going to take refugees in from Gaza, for instance, which we might do in the coming months, they're not going to travel here by horse.
No.
So I don't understand the confluence of these two.
Whatever dinghies they came over the channel in or whatever would have been powered by petrol. Yeah.
So why do they think they are fighting for migrant interests? I do not know. That is a mystery that is yet to be resolved.
Just want to campaign.
They just want to disrupt.
Yeah, I think they just keep on making a spectacle of themselves and issues such as this. I can't imagine how the migrants that were there felt seeing that. I don't think they would have felt comforted by that at all.
And still, it hasn't changed their destination.
No.
They've just been delayed on their trip to the Bibby Stockholm. That's just caused irritation to them and to the driver.
And to the locals, who are absolutely fed up with the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we have a bit of David Walliams. Controversial, of course, because of why he had to leave BGT.
Yes, he stepped down in 2020 as a judge. No, he stepped down in 2022.
Oh, right.
But The Guardian ran a piece of recordings that were based of him making derogatory comments about two of the contestants, sexual comments as well. And he's suing the production company Fremantle. And now in some of the court papers that have been revealed, it says actually Fremantle knew about these recordings and they had actually still offered him a £1 million contract. He's suing them for data breach of protection. He's also saying that, you know, he was led to having suicidal thoughts when he lost his job. So it's very much turning ugly in this case.
It is. I'm very surprised. I didn't know he was suing them.
Yeah.
It seems, under the circumstances, you think you'd just let it slide.
I was going to say, doing something which was unacceptable and meant that they wanted to sack him, him being sacked, and he's now saying that the being sacked caused him such distress that he's had mental health problems. But he shouldn't have done what he did in the first place.
But the thing is, I think there was a culture at BGT where they were actually all saying stuff. So the fact that he's been basically the fallout guy, he's the one that's had to step down. They offered him a contract. They were happy to stand by him before it became, you know, media attention about this. So to be honest, I think he's got a chip on his shoulder and it's a money thing. His earnings have dropped significantly. And then it also asks us about things about cancel culture. Once you've been cancelled from one of the biggest entertainment shows on ITV, what work do you have coming up for you next?
Yeah. I mean, you can see it's obviously a money thing.
Yes.
Yeah, dear man.
Let the lawyers get rich.
It's a different world, isn't it, for the rest of us? You just have to take it on the chin if it was one of us. Fraser, you don't strike me as a man who would shy away from paying the bill at a restaurant.
Of course not, but in this story, this man has found an ingenious way to get out of paying the bill. He's a Lithuanian man living in Spain, but he goes into restaurants, he pretends to be a Russian tourist so that so that people don't... so that he can pretend not to understand people, and then he racks up a big bill, usually ordering... He likes his whiskies, for instance, and then he pretends to have a heart attack, and he does this really dramatic thing where he, you know, completely overacts it. But he's got away with it. Well, he hasn't got away with it now. He's been caught up.
But he's done it many times.
He's done it many times where he's basically, you know, pretended to be ill. Even had, you know, medics come and take him away from the scene so that he can get out of paying the bill.
So
terrible.
He comes to the restaurant, eats an enormous meal,
Yeah.
doesn't pay for it, has a heart attack, goes home in an ambulance. Something like that.
And
does it again and again and again.
Fake, and he's absolutely fine. He's not having a heart attack.
Oh, my goodness.
He reminds me of the little boy who cried wolf, because
Yes.
one day he might actually have a heart attack and no one will actually take him seriously. They'll be like, is this another joke?
Yes.
Tell you what, you can't have a favourite restaurant because you can't go back to the same place twice.
No, you can't.
If you forgot.
Yeah.
Tried it there last week.
Oh, well, you know, that makes me really angry, actually. It's just like, well, I'm glad they've caught him. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I mean, the lengths people will go to scam, you know, just 60 quid or whatever it is there. It's extraordinary.
Or maybe he's having very expensive whiskies and things, and maybe it's hundreds of
Seems like
pounds.
that, yeah. I think there was like 60, 70 pounds was his average bill. So it's
how much?
between 60 and 70 pounds was his average bill, which is not outright. You know, that's not that much money.
No.
But one person, though, if he just sits down on his own and tucks
Well, it
in.
might be a couple of whiskeys.
Yeah.
so-
Quite well fed.
Yes, exactly.
Stephanie Tetcher.
Sorry.
Shall we have a look at what's this, Steph, about homes and businesses in Cork?
Yeah, there's a lot of videos online which have showed that, you know, the storm has taken its toll in Cork and Ireland, where some businesses have been totally flooded and damaged and devastated by the storm. I always get scared with what Mother Nature can do.
Yes.
You just think, you just don't see these things coming, and then to have to pick your business back up from such a devastation in already hard times. It's quite heartbreaking.
Even on the physical side, I've been round houses that have flooded and talked to owners and things, and you go in and you sort of think, I wouldn't know where to begin on a clean-up.
No, and you don't think it will happen to you or your business, and I think as well people always underestimate the power of storms, especially when you're in London.
Well, and when you get flooded, it's not clean water that comes into your home or your shop or whatever. So the clean-up is huge, and it's very smelly and very difficult. And what can you do except just chuck everything away? And that seems such a terrible waste.
It does, it does. Look, we're going to leave it there. Don't go anywhere in case we come back to you, which we might do. But Fraser, Stephanie, for now, thank you very much indeed. Let's stick with that weather theme, should we? Because a red weather warning is still in place for parts of England and predominantly Scotland, and people in hundreds of homes have been told to evacuate as Storm Babette batters the country.
Yes, in fact, it's thousands of families who've lost power, and they're facing flooding from unprecedented amounts of rain.
And as you will have heard, a 57-year-old woman died yesterday after being swept into a river in Angus in Scotland.
Well, let's cross now to our GBNEWS Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire, who's actually in the town of Brechin, which has been evacuated over flooding fears. Hello there, Tony. Tell us more.
Good morning. Certainly it looked a little bit sketchy of whether we'd even be able to get into the town of Brechin this morning, but indeed on our third attempt we managed to get in, and we made our way straight to here, which is the community campus at the top of the hill of Brechin, past those flooded streets down at the bottom. Now I'm joined here by the Director of Infrastructure for Brechin, Graham Daly, for Angus should I say. Tell me, how has the situation developed overnight from the pictures that we last saw yesterday?
As we had the modelling, as the modelling had predicted, it was for the river water level to significantly rise, and it did breach our flood defence around about 4 o'clock this morning. As a result, those that had not been evacuated or had chosen not to leave their homes, we were left in a situation where it was a rescue operation. And our multi-agency response, working with Scottish Fire and Rescue, with Police Scotland, with our Coast Guards, really kicked in to try and prioritise those in greatest need. We've had a lot of people coming in overnight to our rest centre where we're standing here, where we're doing our very best, including our volunteers and our staff working here overnight to look after the people who are coming in. So it is unprecedented, what we are seeing in terms of the water level. It really is an exceptional, extreme event. The flooding that is impacting us here in Brechin, and it has unfolded as we thought it would overnight, and we are just activating our plans accordingly.
Now, obviously, those flood defences, I believe, are built for about 3.8 metres rise in the river here, the River South Esk, and modelling from SEPA suggested it would be around 5 metres, which explains the incredible scenes down at the riverfront. So for those who did make the choice to leave their homes, what is the mood like generally among those that have come to decided to spend the night at the rest centre?
It's obviously very challenging, and there are people in distress. In saying that, I think credit to the staff and the residents who came here, who have done their very best, who have really just supported each other at the rest centre. So there's definitely a feel of a very challenging atmosphere, but at the same time people are pulling together and supporting each other. And as I said, just I pay credit to people who have came here under very difficult circumstances, and as I said, the staff, which includes many volunteers who have really worked very long hours overnight to look after the welfare and needs of the people who have been arriving.
And I guess the question in everyone's mind is what happens next? Is it too early to say? When Storm Babbitt hopefully leaves Scotland some point in the next few hours. We are still around 4 hours from the end of the red weather warning. What is the next stage in the plans for towns like Brecon and Tannadice that have been struck really hard?
As you said, the Storm Babbitt's very much still with us. The red weather warning, which is a risk to life, is still live until 12 midday today, and then thereafter there's an amber weather warning, so there's a lot more rain and extreme weather forecasted for us. So obviously our immediate priority is, as I said, it is about prioritising risk to life and making sure everyone is okay. I mentioned there, it's really unprecedented what we are seeing. There obviously will be a significant challenge and major exercise in terms of the clean-up and in terms of how we respond. It's something similarly as how we've responded to this emergency. We'll do it with our partners, our multiple agencies that are involved right now. And all I could say at this stage is we will endeavour our very, very best to respond as quickly and as effectively as we can.
And just, I guess, finally, as Director of Infrastructure, have you any thoughts on kind of the investment in the 3.8? Was that a sensible decision at the time? Have you any thoughts now that perhaps looking ahead into the future, further money needs to be spent on flood defence systems?
Yeah, Angus Council, like many other councils, we have invested very heavily in our flood defences. What I would say that there has been incidences in recent years where those flood defences have actually prevented a flooding. What we've seen, as I said, really is unprecedented. And in terms of what further investment, I think obviously that's a bit early to really comment on that.
Well, Graham, thank you so much. You really are doing a stand-up job, and I imagine when the dust has settled from this situation that the residents here in Brecon will be really thankful for your presence. But back to you in the studio.
Lovely. Tony, thank you very much.
Honestly,
indeed.
Seeing those pictures makes you just want to go home and hide under the duvet, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Look, we're down to 30 seconds, and I just want to touch on this, Steph. It's in The Sun.
Yeah.
Paul O'Grady.
Oh, what a way to go. He was a much-loved entertainer by the whole nation. There's been a memorial service to remember him, but his husband, Andre Postario, revealed that he smoked a cannabis joint before he died, and then he peacefully passed away.
That is absolutely him.
I think that is such a showbiz way to go.
It's lovely, and actually,
is.
I hope he did die a little bit high.
Definitely.
And a little bit sleepy and happy. Yeah.
Very fitting for Paul O'Grady.
Well,
absolutely.
It's hard to argue against that, I think, in your final moments. Steph, Fraser, good to see you this morning.
Thank you very much.
Very much indeed. We've got more on the politics and Labour's by-election victories in a moment.